Hello, folks. Hopefully you're with us today.
Ooh,
Wow, has everything's been zooey this week? Have you been experiencing what I've been experiencing?
that's why I'm in the calm now. Um,
It's like breathe
I'm
and
breathing
breathe.
in and breathing out.
No kidding. Yeah. So my daughter, you'll appreciate this because you've
Okay,
had kids that have been in sports for quite a few years.
gotcha.
So my daughter did cheerleading in middle school.
Okay.
She's never done a team sport. I mean, when they were really little, when they're in soccer and the whole team is chasing the ball, that's how young she was when she was in a team sport. So she's going to be 14 next week, and she has natural athletic ability. So both my husband and I have been working with her to do different things, and she's always had a lot of interest in tennis and volleyball. So she
Hmm.
decided to go out for the tennis and volleyball teams. Well, both tennis and volleyball play at the same time. So we're like, honey, you're not going to be able to play on both teams. If you get on both, you're going to have to choose one. She's like,
Correct.
that's fine. I just want to see. She's kind of playing her bets, right? Her hedging
Hmm.
her bets. Like she's like, if I
Hmm.
don't get on one, but I get on the other, then at least I'll be on a team.
Correct.
So she goes out for both, gets both, decides to do volleyball. Well, as you can imagine, now all of a sudden we're in. So I've had a change of schedule every few minutes, it seems like, oh, volleyball practice is at 7:30. No, now it's at 8 o'clock. No, no, and then you get to pick her up at this time. No, it's this time. And meanwhile, I'm trying to, I have my schedule I have to attend to. Right. So I mean,
Oh,
we did volleyball camp. So I mean, I was like, got used to the driving back and forth, a half hour to drop her
uh-huh.
off and another half hour to go home and then another half hour to go pick her up and then another half hour to go. And I'm like, good Lord, how do these families do it with multiple kids? It's insane. I mean, we're excited that she made the team. Super excited. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So she's on JV, never played
Uh-huh.
volleyball a day in her life. I mean, we played in the backyard, but and she goes in and she beats out some kids that played all the way through middle school.
Hmm.
And she's like, I guess I'm supposed to be there or something. And I'm like, honey, just trust you're supposed to be there. Now you get to put your all into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And apparently we do too.
Oh,
She
oh.
has her first game in 3 weeks. I'm like, what? What? We don't even have knee pads and
They fail. We fail to realize that when we sign them up, we're signing ourselves up, right? That
yeah, we're saying.
you're in it. And it's the strange thing. So Roy says she's a natural. Hey Roy, how are you?
Hey, Roy.
You know, my daughter AAU just ended and ended 2 weeks ago when we did the show. It was the
Yeah, yeah.
last that Wednesday we're in DC, and then we drove down to Atlanta, got home for 4 hours. So we got home by 12, by 5, no, 6 hours, by 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. we were back in the car driving to Atlanta. Ended, and I said to myself, oh, now I can breathe. But how about the coach comes and says, "Oh, there's something coming up that we need to prepare for." I'm like, oh, okay, there we
What?
go again,
Huh?
But it does. I think I love sports for kids because what it does is, how 2021 everybody's in the phone, and they're down, their necks are bent over, and the obesity rate and all of that that's going on in the country and just around, period. When they do become active, it adds another dimension to, for me, I think it's, you be healthy, right? You be healthy. I know some people are healthy on their phones, but majority who are the kids who are bending the necks, they're having that 60 pound. If you do it for 30 minutes, if you do it at a particular angle, the weight increases. I just saw that in the Costco newsletter. And I was like, oh my goodness, these kids
For us too,
are
not just the kids, right? All of us.
yeah, all of
Yeah,
us. But
yeah.
for them, so kudos to her for making that. And next let's do basketball, girl. Come on. Want to see you
Oh, good
rolling.
Lord. No, we were talking about that. We were talking about that. I said to my husband, I said, well, at least she chose two sports that are back to back or not back to back or same time. So, I mean, otherwise we'll be driving ourselves
Oh, you'll be going
crazy.
crazy. Well,
But,
what's
you know,
going on?
I was really proud of her too, because, you know, we had just come back from vacation and she had, you know, a head cold that, you know, has been developing. And so here she's going into this brand new thing. She's all nervous. She's like, I don't know. And that girl puts it all in. She will throw her body around the court, you know,
Mm,
and, you know, so I
that's
know why
good.
she got on the team. I mean, she
Yep.
definitely has the skills, you know, naturally, and the ability to go after stuff. But, you know, she did decide to go with volleyball because, and it speaks to what you were just talking about. She says, I like the girls, I like the group, I like the people, I like the interactions, I like, and isn't that's what connections are all about? I mean, yes, we
Yeah.
make connections doing this, but, you know, it's really about human to human contact and human to
Yeah.
human, face to face. And she really loved being with this group of girls. It just, she felt supported. She felt, you know, like that was the group, that was the team she wanted to be a part of.
Mm,
And I think it speaks a lot to this idea of remembering that where we really build ourselves, you know, in our connections with others is when we're with one another.
correct.
Right. And we can be present in other ways, but I think that state of presence, which we were talking about last time, you know, that's something to really remember, you know, that
Hmm.
there is a certain degree of building together, you know, physically, and you know how team is. I mean, they have to learn how, I mean, they win together, they lose together.
Yep. In the
And they
trenches.
have to learn to accept that. I know, you know, just some of the conversations we've been having with Madison, we're like, you know, you're an only child and you've never played team sports really, you know, in the developmental stage you're at now,
Hmm.
you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot about sharing, caring, you know, taking the hit as a team.
Mm,
You know, you've never had to take the hit for anything other than your individual self.
yeah.
And so, you know, I think that that's going to be really, really a good experience.
Correct.
But if we don't throw ourselves in there and do that, and so I think, you know, in the time we're in with so much going on and we're kind of trying to get back out there and there's fears about different things going on, and should I, and I could just stay in my safe zone of just staying behind the screen and, you know, staying out of the fray and all of
Hmm.
that. And we have to remind ourselves that although we do want to take calculated risks, living is about taking risks. It is about being out there. It is
Hmm.
about being engaged and with one another.
Hmm.
And I think the more we can't practice being with one another in concept, we actually practice being with one another by being with one another.
Mm. True. True.
Right. So I
True.
see a lot of that too. You know, lip service. We see this in the leadership field. A lot of great ideas on what good leadership is, but where we really establish it and build it is
Practice.
in the field, right?
Yeah.
Is when we're actually doing it. And with all the challenges that we've been, you know, collectively navigating, that's the time to apply these things, is in the challenge, not once the challenge is over and it's all comfortable and easy, right?
Mm,
It's about saying, how can I do this while it's difficult? I know that's something I've definitely been experiencing lately.
yes. 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 You know, you talk about uh, the only child. I still, maybe majority of them, but I still believe that the way you bring up the child and the way I hear you talk about Madison and how she's her intelligence, emotional intelligence, sticking up her friends, talking about, we've talked a lot about her. Uh, it's it's the way you bring up, the way you train up the child, right? I think that is key, even in a home where there are 20 kids or 2 kids, right? It's how the parents choose to bring them up in the house. It's how most people say, I've heard this, don't know for a fact, haven't looked at the data, that a millionaire or a very rich person child's going to be lazy. It's the way you bring your child up, period,
That
right?
is
If
exactly
you
it.
bring your child up being conscious of the decisions you make, right? How you engage with yourself, how you engage with mommy and daddy, how you engage with your friends, having them have that 360 view, that relationships are key, no man's an island, because I still hear that in my growing up. We were three. My dad would say, no man's an island, Wulwyn. And he would tell us all the time, it takes a village, it takes a village, it takes a village. And I would see it takes a village when my brother would be teaching me to do my homework. And when we would be in the kitchen helping mom prepare food, when I would go with daddy, when he would go and work on his contracts, and just everybody pulling in so that the team wins in the end. So I want to throw a wrench right in there and say, look, it's how we bring these kids up, and your kid is going to fare well in there in a team sport. Why? Because mom and dad and her, they've been a team.
Yeah.
She's been operating in a team.
That's
and
true.
had you shut your mouth and seen her operate in a way and don't call her to task, then that's a problem. But when you're in the house knowing you, when you see her slacking, hey, babe Madison, you got to pull your weight, girl. She's been pulling her weight since. So it's just an easy. Now, you tell me, it's tennis versus volleyball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tennis, it was a single. She's going to go single again. She goes again.
Doubles. No, they do
Oh,
doubles.
it was doubles?
I mean,
Okay.
they do both, right?
Okay.
So they basically on the team, they do both. So they're training, which I think is really great. I did that when I was competitive.
She goes
tennis.
and says, I want to go on a team where there are, 4 or 5 other girls on the team.
Yeah. She likes the numbers.
There
she
you
does.
go. So team, y'all, eavesdroppers, it's the trend is not the trend. We can beat the trend, right? Where she's single child or a rich child or a poor child, right? Just all the stereotypes out there, we can beat them.
So I have a couple things. One thing you actually said, I want to earmark. Another thing, is something about Madison that happened in tennis practice. So we'll earmark it with tennis practice and a girl who was kind of sticking to Madison like glue. So I'm going to just earmark that for a second because I think it's an important concept I want to come back to. But the first thing is, you said it takes a village. That's the second time I've heard that today. And it's not even 1 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock. So it's funny because, so last night we found out volleyball practice is 7:30 in the morning. And by the way, an hour before, it's not going to be at the regular school. It's going to be this other school because something happened and and they need to now switch it to this other school. And so I said to my husband, I was like, I've got a client session. Can you run her out there? And I'll figure out how to pick her up because I've got a session. Yeah. So I'm either going to have to reschedule that or, work something out. So he apparently went to take her this morning, got to the second school, got to the first school, found out that it was at the second school. So then goes and takes her to the second school. Meanwhile, she gets a text from a friend who's on the team whose mom broke down and by any chance could we circle around and pick up the daughter to bring her to practice. So Jeff drops Madison off, goes back, picks up the friend, brings the friend back. And meanwhile, and he says, oh, by the way, when he talks to the mom, it's like, I don't know if your car is going to be fixed or if you've thought about how you're going to pick up your daughter, but, let us know because we're having a problem on our end getting Madison home. And so anyway, she ends up getting there, getting both the girls, bringing her back to her house. I go to pick up and I get there and she says, oh, did you know practice is at, is it at 3:30 to 5:30 tomorrow? Meanwhile, I'm giving a half-day facilitation workshop in Raleigh tomorrow that I'm then going to an event in the evening straight from. Jeff is supposed to meet me at the evening event afterwards. So neither one of us are going to be around. I'm like, oh, good Lord. So she says to me, she's like, it's okay. I'll come pick up Madison, take her to practice, bring her back here, and you can pick her up after your event.
There you go.
And she goes, it takes a village. And you know what, Wulwyn, this is the reason I bring this up, because I think a lot of people probably experience this as well. I am not a person that I have both a difficult time asking for help
Mhm.
and receiving support.
Mm.
It is a very, and I really recognize that because I actually felt major anxiety asking her to do that, right? And then receiving it. I'm like standing there and I said to her, I said, I am so sorry. I'm having a moment. I said, I have a very hard time asking, other people. I don't want to put anybody out. And she goes, trust me, I get it. I get it. I'm that way too. She goes, it was everything in me to text you guys this morning to see if you could come get my daughter, So I say that because I think a lot of us struggle with that. And it's something that, I didn't realize until I feel like I'm like, why am I having
It's anxiety.
and this
Correct.
person is offering it. And why am I having this anxiety? It's because I really do realize how much that's a challenge for me. And yet when we lean into that, receiving is absolutely necessary, because if we're just giving and not receiving, I mean, people could be offering us all the time and we may take them up on it, but if we're not fully receiving it,
Correct.
letting it in, letting ourselves really let it wash over us and feel held, feel caught, feel, that peace, we never feel at ease. We never feel secure.
Woo.
Security is a part of receiving that support.
Can I come in quickly? And you still need to go back to the girl sticking on Madison. So let me come in quickly on this. I'm gonna ask a couple questions that you're gonna just go, true, true, true. You wouldn't bat an eye when somebody asks you to do something for them. You would go and quickly run and do it. Right?
Well, it depends. It depends, actually.
I mean, their daughter, somebody's daughter, somebody's daughters, and they say, yes. Traci, can you please do this? You will do it in a heartbeat. Right?
Right.
If someone's daughter is hanging with you and they give them money for food, and you guys go to a restaurant, you and Jeff and Madison are there along with this child, and the check comes. Would you and somebody asks, are you guys together? You would say, yes, we are. Give one check, because the $10-15 that child is eating, come on, it's Absolutely. Nothing, right? Especially if you have it, right? If you don't have it, that's a different thing. You say, yeah, you know what, if you don't have it, but if you have it, it's nothing. I have found that when you can give, and you were about to put parameters around it. Let's not put parameters around it, because we're talking about just giving.
Right, we're not about giving. We're not talking about enabling people. Right? Correct.
Yeah. Good, because I knew you were going to go with that angle. And no, we're talking about just giving of your good heart, because it's right in that moment to give.
Right.
Now, if you can give, and trust me, you're looking at somebody who had a problem like that too. Oh, he had a problem with it. When he had a problem with it, Wulwyn had a problem with it when he was working and income was nothing for him. He was good with it, but when he went through foreclosure and went through every single thing, car gone, a transformation of himself to know that he wasn't a business manager, but he was a child of God. He was Wulwyn, the human being, who nothing that he does enables him to be who he was or who he is. But he was just Wulwyn because he was present, because he's here. When I went through that transformation, and in the process of someone coming and saying, your child can come and play on this, there was a team that was going on, and they said your child can play on the team. Don't worry about money. I was like, no. And the guy looks at me and says, hey, you, don't you know that I know what you're going through? I'm like, yeah, but he says, shut your mouth and bring your child. And I go, okay. And then It went on in different things, Tracy, in different things that people were just giving, and I had to receive because it was vital for my children to be in programs that they needed at that developmental stage. And I was placed in that position to receive. And oh, Tracy, it burned me that I had to receive. But mind you, I could give my shirt off, but it was part of my growth process. And there's another lady, I'm not going to call her name, that we both know, and we both know a whole lot of people, so you will never know this person, who when we met had the same issue of receiving. And I was like, I'm going to give this thing to you free. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, you're not paying me. It's what makes the world go round.
Well, you just said it, because if we don't receive, then other people don't have the opportunity to give.
They don't experience what you've been experiencing in giving and giving, and how it makes you feel when you really do that from your heart, right? Mm-hmm. That person is doing it from their heart and you want to stop it. So let's eavesdroppers. Let's think about it. When that person is giving, they're trying to bless you. And in that blessing, they're getting a blessing. When we stop it, they're going, oh my goodness, why are you stopping? Why are you? So let's learn to receive the same way we can give 100%. Let's start receiving 100% and know that they're not enabling you to be the welfare person. No, they're just blessing you because they want to be blessed, because you have favor.
Well, thank you. And I think it also, too, it allows things, to the point of it takes a village, is for things to function and continue to move forward. We need that, right? We need to have those those who lay the bricks and those who put in the mortar and those who lay the bricks. I mean, otherwise the wall doesn't get built. So and that's where my head is actually trying to teach the rest of me that concept of, but it makes sense to give and receive, right? Allow yourself to do that from this commonsensical thing. But that's where I'm really trying to also let it filtrate into my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Because what it illuminates, anytime we have a hard time receiving, it's because we have a blocked heart. Mm-hmm. We have a blockage in that. It doesn't mean totally blocked heart. But we have a blockage in allowing things into that heart space. And so that, to me, is just another, I mean, I've been working on opening my heart for so many years. And so it's just another reminder that there's still work to be done, is really not just allow myself to receive from here, like, thank you, I appreciate that, but really let myself feel the grace and gift that is. That's when it really gets into that space it's meant to get into. We're not just carrying it around like a check mark, like, oh yeah, my husband picked up your daughter and now we're even, kind of thing. I mean, not that I'm thinking about it in those terms at all, but that's what happens in the head. The head takes count and checks boxes. Mm-hmm. The heart allows that connection, allows us to really, really feel the connection of the village, right? Wow. And that's the piece that I'm working on. I can appreciate all day long when somebody gives me something, right, from a conceptual standpoint. Mm-hmm. But from a felt standpoint, right? That's the piece that I think is important. So quick segue. This is another important thing, I think, because my daughter has been her entire life an empathy kid, right?
So this is the story with the kid
tennis thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So she has been full on empathy. And as she's come up through the years in school, she's always been the kid that the teacher or the camp counselor or the authority has put with the challenged kids, right? So whether that's challenged because of disabilities, or whether that's challenged because they're difficult, from a behavioral standpoint, she's always kind of been, in school, she's been placed next to the behavioral problem kids because she's the balancer. In camp, she was put with the disabled kids because she was super patient and very compassionate and empathetic. This is the thing I want us to all remember, is we don't want to, it can be a burden when we place those people in those positions all the time. So what happened in camp was Madison came home after her first day of tryouts at tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there was one particular girl who my daughter says, I don't know if I think she's autistic, mom. I'm not sure, but there's a delay there, you know. And she said she glommed onto me. She, like everywhere I went, she wanted to work with me. And she says, I was there to develop my skills. And I wanted to play full out. And this, you know, everybody's like, oh yeah, you can work with so-and-so. And my husband's like, I don't want to be rude, but I don't want to work with so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, Mom, does that make me a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
I said, honey, you're being honest. I said, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm going to say to you is we always talk about having compassion for others. I said, but
Mm-hmm.
you're also stepping into a place now in your life where you want to develop you.
Mm-hmm.
You've spent a lot of years being that babysitter, you know, being
Mm-hmm.
that person who's been there for others.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes at the detriment of her, she'd come home and like, oh, mom, our table got in trouble again. And we had to stay in from recess. And she didn't do anything wrong. She's with a bunch of behavioral problem kids. And, you know, she gets pulled down with that. And so many times it has allowed her, because we talked about developing that, you know, you have to advocate for yourself.
Correct.
Go up to the teacher, explain the situation, say, I've been next to so-and-so the entire semester. Can I be moved? I want to learn. I want to listen. I don't want to be distracted. I'm trying, but I mean,
Correct.
at the end of the day, she's a kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so that's taught her a lot when it comes to communicating and advocating. But I think we also need to be careful that, and we don't place ourselves in these positions either. I mean, we do it to our kids. I know I was a teacher for 15 years. You know, we're always looking at where we can balance the room.
Correct.
But I think at the same time, we also have to realize that these kids get to earn their own ability to fly, right? They don't, you know, we can be compassionate and have boundaries at the same time, which is what I told her. I said, you know, when you go back, you know, you try to explain it. Unfortunately, she didn't know this girl at all. So it's kind of hard to say something to somebody you just met.
Correct.
Especially if she is autistic, because they don't tend to understand social, you know, even direct, you know, commands or direct, you know, social interactions. But I said, this is a perfect opportunity for you to step up and really go for what is important to you. You can have both. You can be compassionate and empathetic and get your needs met.
Correct.
But it is about asking, because if you don't ask, you are going to be naturally placed in a position where you might be held back, right? Or you might be in a situation where you won't get the opportunity to go and have the full opportunity that you want if you stay quiet, right? So I think that that's the thing, is we want to watch out for that, but we also within ourselves, you know, where might we be holding ourselves back because we feel like, oh, we have to be, you know, you have to be gracious, you have to be kind, you have to be, yeah, you can be those things, but you can also go for what you need.
Oh, true. Correct.
Right? You don't need to be held back in life. And if you need to make a cut away from something in order to have the experiences you want to have and grow yourself in the way you want to grow yourself, you have to be able to take, you know, have the courage to do that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you insensitive. Obviously, if you deal with it in an insensitive way, then you might be coming across as insensitive. But you can have full compassion and empathy and also voice what you need and put action towards what you need. And so that was something I really wanted to bring up, because I think we all do it unconsciously, you know, whether we do it to others, like my daughter has been always, I mean, really, literally every single year. I mean, at some point in third grade, I kind of had to have some conversations with some of the teachers, because I'm like, this is just really putting a lot on this kid. And I'm not just saying it because it's my kid. I would say this with any kid. But I think that's something we definitely want to be aware of.
You know, so a couple, my mind is just going poop, poop, poop. So, but anything I say, it's not for or against. They're just points from what you, from what you just stated. A zone of genius has been just, it's just natural that her zone of genius is, don't know what it is, but from what I hear you saying, it's just the balancer, the person who can look at the entire spectrum and just wisely say. And so now it's coming across what people are attracting, but then it also comes across when she processes information and gives the balanced view of what information has been given to her. It will come across when she is weighing things in her personal space, and she would go across the spectrum and balance it. So you're seeing balance coming across with people who she's engaging with. It's across decisions. It's across information being given to her. It's within herself. And the reason why I can smile and say, I get it, I get it. I know I was a builder. I knew I was a builder. At one time, it's me building, taking my parents' LP apart, the amplifier apart, and putting it back together to see the human being in there who's talking. At another time, it's me saying, oh, I want to be a software engineer because I can go on an empty screen and put it on. It's another part where I meet people and I'm extracting greatness from them and saying, man, you can be better. You can be the best person you can be. So you see building coming across everything I'm engaging with. Now, the next thing is, as you were talking, I just got the analogy of playing basketball. We're 5 on the team. The team is, we want to win, but there's the guy who can't shoot standing at the 3-point line, and we need to win. I have the basketball. Somebody is on me. Everybody, every other person has been taken. He is the only one free. My empathy and compassion is, dude, you cannot bounce. You cannot shoot. You're supposed to be under the rim. I am not passing this ball to you because of the team, because I know what's going to happen when you get it there. You will turn it over. Now, people will look and say, Wulwyn is selfish. But I'm not selfish. I'm there looking. I'm saying, that's not the place you're getting it. Sorry. And I tell you, move, go down there. I'm not passing it to you there. And you look at me like, I'm like, dude, I'm not passing. Go to where you can promote and you can be a genius down there, but not up here. And then he moves. When he moves and I pass it to him, he turns, bum, bum, bum. He makes the basket and I look at him, I wink. He says, every single time it happens with different players on the team. And it's what I'm teaching my daughter now. And the team that I coach, I assistant coach, I tell them, if Traci is a shooter, not a bouncer, she doesn't know how to take layups, and we're doing a fast break, and I see Traci jetting down and she's in a good position to take a layup, I'm not passing the ball to Traci because Traci doesn't know how to take layups. So I will be selfish in this and take it down and do what I'm supposed to do. Or I will tell Traci, go back to the 3. And Traci's going to stop, go to the 3, and I'm going to hit Traci. It's now me and this girl, Madison and this girl, right, going, in order for me to be my best self at this moment, just hold 1 minute, okay? I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back, but I need to do something for myself right now. Boom, 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 boom. I go and get the best person who's playing tennis, and who's way better than I am, and we're gonna hit, let them mess me up, let them do things to me for me to improve. And then afterwards, I'm gonna come, hey, what's up? Go practice that. Let's do this together. There are things we have to do, and that's just a point I'm making here. There are things that when we are we're in a village operating, and we know that Traci is the one who can take a word and pop the kernel and just have multiple juices coming out of the words, right? And I need a wordsmith at that particular moment when I'm speaking. And I go, at this time, I wouldn't do you guys justice to attack this word. I'm going to call Traci Phillips in this moment for her to do that for us. So ladies and gentlemen, Traci Phillips, please come up to the microphone. All of a sudden, that thing that we're doing elevates to another level where people are going, oh my goodness, this team really did something great here. So, just buttressing what you're saying, eavesdroppers, when you're doing yourself and your team service, when you find somebody who's not in position to perform, when you keep it and tell them, go to where you can perform, versus where you think you're being unselfish and you go, hey, you do it, you are going to hurt that person's confidence in growing to become the best version of themselves.
And I think I love that you said that. And I think for those people who have that talent, right, that's their zone of genius, to see the capacity of where everybody fits in the puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. You know, and Madison certainly knows that. And I think that that's what she's learning to hone, right, is that talent and skill. And I think, you know, my point too is really on creating those boundaries around that. I mean, you said it. It's like to be able to use your own instinctive knowledge that if I gave him the ball there, it wouldn't work for anybody. But if I gave him the ball over here, we got a really good chance. That's being able to speak to that, I think is, you know, that also is the building of the confidence piece, where it's like, you know, I just had that same thing happen in a so I was asked to be a feature writer for a publication that I've written for a couple of times. And I'm, you know, working on some collaborative stuff with a friend of mine. And I went back to them and said, you know, thank you so much for asking me to be the feature, you know, writer for this upcoming edition. Would you be okay if I co-authored something? Right. And this friend of mine and I have not co-authored anything yet. So I'm taking a chance because this co-authored piece is going to be featured. Right.
Gotcha.
And they said, yeah, sure, we trust you. Yeah, go for it. And so we worked on it. And I came to the person, I said, hey, what do you think about this idea? And he's like, oh, I love it. And I said, you know, and I created the boundaries. I'm like, it needs to be done by this time, which means we need to have collaborative time. You know, so if I see you as being the genius in the models and the framework. Do you agree with that? Like, do you see yourself? Yeah, absolutely. I said, so if you can create the models and framework around this concept we're talking about, shoot it back to me. I'm a great editor and writer. I can take it and put it into article form. And, but this person didn't get it to me until the 9th hour. So I had one day to rewrite this thing. Because I mean, again, he is brilliant at what he's brilliant at. He's not a great writer, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
And if he's listening, I'm sorry to say that so boldly, because you know who you are. Not a great writer, but he is absolutely genius at these other things. And I had to basically step up and own those spaces and say, if this is going to work, well, you know what ended up happening? So it really was great because it opened up some really great conversations about expectations, timing, you know, collaborative, like you need to have time to be collaborative. And when we have a deadline of 4 days, we need to get right on it to give us that time. That we learned a lot and it was really great. But what ended up coming out of it, he finally, you know, kind of had to acquiesce to the time frame because he wanted to rewrite the thing in the 9th hour. And I'm like, we don't have time for that. It's going to have to be as it is. And I don't like to be the one that's the boss. Like in a collaborative piece, I didn't feel good about that, but I knew I had to take that role at that moment, kind of like my daughter stepping up and telling the coach, like, I need to work with somebody else right now. I really want to practice my skills.
Yes.
You know, is it didn't feel great, but it had to be done. And well, what ended up happening is turned it in. The editor came back and said, this is absolutely brilliant. We love it so much. So we want you to be a feature. We want both of you to be feature writers. We're going to create a new section in our publication monthly for the two of you to write if you're open to it. So to your point about playing a game and making sure that it all ends up working for everybody, I think it is, I mean, you know, a lot of this was like, oh, I got to step up and say something. Oh, I got to, you know, and it felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, for me to say, look, this is what I think I'm good at that I don't see you're good at. This is what you're good at that I'm lousy at. Can we agree on that? Because it takes, I said, I think working together collaboratively with two people who are very strong visionaries, it can be really challenging because we are used to having good ideas. And if we see ourselves in a light that maybe others don't, that's hard to hear. And that ego can take a hit. Yeah. I said, but this is going to be good for both of us. It's going to be good for our egos. It's going to be good for our ability to work collaboratively. And it's going to be great for whatever we produce.
Yes.
That was tough, but what came out of it obviously worked out. So it'll be interesting moving forward. But I think that's the piece too that is so important, that in today's world, especially to communicate what's okay and what isn't okay for you is the definition of setting boundaries.
Yes.
right? And so it isn't just about saying no to things or saying yes to things. It's literally about saying, I'm not okay with that, or I see it this way. And we need to come to an agreement somewhere where we might be kind of sitting on opposite sides right now, but for the moment, we need to find some common ground.
Yeah.
Until we can find a firmer common ground.
Correct.
And as we are, I mean, say forced to do that, I think we're really being challenged to do that. We're being challenged to communicate more with one another. We're being challenged to be somewhat okay. I wasn't totally comfortable asking for this woman, you know, to help me in the situation, but I was kind of forced in the situation, you know, and it forced me then to start realizing I need to do some work on this, you know, I need to really, so I think, you know, I think my point is that we've been living in comfort zone a long time. COVID kind of rattled our comfort zone, you know, chains and bars. And we were really forced to step outside those comfort zones, but we're trying to go back, right? As soon as COVID was over, or now we have Delta, and, you know, it's never going to be over, folks. There's no over. And I think that's the other thing that we need to realize is there's no going back to, you know, comfort totally. So what we really want to learn to do is find security in our decisions, in the way we're living our lives, in the boundaries we're setting, all of that security within ourselves, so that no matter what comes along, whether it's COVID, whether it's Delta, whether it's, you know, some major catastrophe in your life or some major new opportunity that's going to totally push you out of your comfort zone, that you're not going to immediately run from it or shut down from it or take your ball and go home because you would rather be comfortable.
Oh, you talk about taking the ball and going home. You know, we'll talk about taking the ball, going home. I want to talk about a point you just made. And oh my goodness, I always approach collaborations with one, we're on this team. This team is going to win. What are the 2 or 3 things that we need to work on in order for us to win? The first one is, I'll tell you how I operate. I'll operate with clarity. I do not mince words. I will tell you, it may seem tactless sometimes, but I'm just going to come straight with you, and, you know, it's a straight shot. So please do the same with me, because when I turn my back and leave, I'm not, whatever I said is what I wanted to say, what was on my heart. There's no second, there's no connotation to what I said. It's denotated, boom, that's it, right? So don't think that when I leave and you'll be thinking in your space, what did Wulwyn think? What did he say? It was what he said. But more so, the piece that I really want to hammer is, my motives are never to hurt you.
Yeah.
So important. The place, the foundation, the fundamentals of my words will, if in this collaboration, in this relationship, is never to hurt you. So if it's never to hurt you, it's always to build us. It's to build me and to build you. So when I say something and you feel it's coming from a place, always think about rule number 1. Wulwyn isn't here to hurt me, or Traci isn't here to hurt me. Ah, okay, she's not here to hurt me. So, oh wow, so it's here for us to grow. Okay, so Traci, why did you say that? What? And it's always
leaning in. You can lean in when you don't have to be defensive. If, you know, once you realize the person is there to help you, not hurt you.
And my thing is, I always, in my conversations with collaborations, is what I understood you to say is blah, blah, blah. Is that what you meant? Because we come from different backgrounds, the different idiosyncrasies. I'm from Africa. Something you would say in my culture is like somebody in the African culture, you don't tell your buddy, silly rabbit, you silly rabbit, you crazy. They're looking in the, oh, you said what? So when somebody says that, you go, oh, so when somebody says that to me, I quickly calculate. This is not an African. They're not saying it from an African standpoint. They're saying it from the, I say, okay, I get it. I get it. You say I'm crazy. Okay, I get it. But see, that's all the different things that we have to do in our maturity in communication.
Okay.
That I can take myself out and say, what did they mean? They didn't mean that. They meant, and by the way, Traci and I are talking. Traci wouldn't tell me I'm crazy, meaning like I'm really crazy. Nah. So I'm doing that in milliseconds. And I come back and say, yeah, I hear you, girl. And we keep on going.
Well, I
That's,
might,
say that again.
and I might be like, I have some people you could talk to help you.
But okay, let's go. People been talking and speaking. Roy, I think when you were talking about the epidemic or the pandemic going on, the world has changed forever. Carl came on. Hey, I'm here. Mean what you say and say what you mean. Understand constructive criticism was Carl. We have Roy earlier. It's all about relationships. What Roy stated. So, and he said she's a natural, talking about Madison playing, volleyball. Traci, what's going on? What's going on for the rest of the week?
Well, so tomorrow, and I have been full on embracing, I don't want to use the word chaos because chaos is not the right word. Leaning into flexibility and faith and trust, because again, to be fully flexible, you have to have faith and trust in timing, that things will work out, that everything's as it's supposed to. And again, a lot of us can say that conceptually, like we do that, but how much are we practicing and really being in that space? And so I accepted a gig that I'm doing tomorrow. It's half day facilitation. So it really is within my zone. I just haven't done it this way before. So 15 years of teaching, I'm used to, engaging a group for long periods of time. I mean, you teach all day, and I had maybe 15 minutes between classes. And so it was just like boom, 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 right? So I can be on my feet, keeping things going for long periods of time. That's not a question. And I also have the ability to teach pertinent information on leadership, coming from and coach, to get people to understand concepts that maybe they haven't considered before.
Gotcha.
But I've never been a facilitator. So tomorrow I'm doing a 3-hour facilitation to an association, and it's on creating an innovative mindset.
Gotcha.
And so 3 hours means you've got exercises and, all sorts of things to keep them engaged for 3 hours.
Correct.
And when this was first brought to me, I literally almost considered not doing it, because I'm like, I haven't done this kind of thing before. I mean, first of all, the amount I'm getting paid for this, is another thing. From a value standpoint, you're just like, I need to deliver that value, And the woman who was bringing it to me was because she couldn't do it. So this association came to her, and she is a facilitator. This is her job. She does this all the time. And she's like, Traci, I thought of you immediately. I'm like, okay, there's a reason she thought of me immediately. So let me trust that. And as I talked to the woman who was in charge of this whole thing, she was like, I love what you're saying. We'd love to hire you. This would be great. I'm like, okay, she's trusting that I can do. Like, the only person here that's having a hard time trusting is me. And why is that? Is it because I literally don't have the experience to do this? No. Is it because I just am telling myself the story? I've never done it before, so I don't have the right to? Yes, that's what that's what this is due to. So I said yes to it. And yet I've been feeling this like roller coaster, excitement, anxiety. And with all these other things thrown in on days where I was supposed to be creating slides and everything else, it's about, and this morning I finally woke up, because I also yesterday completely redid it. Because suddenly something occurred to me. I'm like, why am I so stressed? It's because this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to be doing something totally different. So I completely reworked it.
Gotcha.
And I feel much better. And I woke up this morning and with all these, change of plans and picking up and needing to reschedule and all this, I'm like, you know what, Traci, you've got this. You have your notes, you have your slides, you know what you're going to say. You don't need to, it reminds me of a TED talk that I'm actually using an excerpt from for this particular presentation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a guy by the name of Adam Grant, and he's a professor at Wharton School of Business,
Okay.
which, as you probably know, a very prestigious business school. He also is an author, and he is an organizational psychologist. So he has done studies on what works, from a psychological standpoint in organizations, what helps build their culture properly. But he did a study early on visionaries. He calls them originals, and he has a book called Originals that he wrote from this study that he did. And his TED Talk was on the data points in his book. And he talks about surprising characteristics of visionaries, and one of them is procrastination. He said they are quick to start and slow to finish. He says, think about the biggest companies, that got out there and then kind of waited for their competitors to rush to the finish line, make a bunch of mistakes. And they, the innovators are the ones that kind of come in afterwards, learn from what their competitors did, and bring it up at a higher tier.
Mm-hmm.
And, but procrastination was, and he talked about Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. He says, he was writing that thing up to the final hour. In fact, he was waiting off stage, scratching things out and changing what he was going to say. And he says, the reason that works in innovative thinking, right? Creating the environment so that you can be innovative. Which, first of all, we got to take ourselves out of the reptilian brain, which is fight, flight, freeze, or faint, right? Where we're protecting ourselves and we're not coming up with ingenious ideas. We're just self-preservation. The thinking part is up here, but the thinking part gets shut down when we're in stress, right? So we have to be open to let it be in flow state or flex state. And that's what happened with the I Have a Dream speech. He had prepared enough to have a concept of what he was there to do. Plus, he was always focused on something greater than himself, which is another piece, is having idea doubt, not self-doubt, right? Don't personalize your idea. It's not you, it's outside of you. Let that stand on its own. And in fact, you should doubt it, play with it, pick it apart, see how it works. Make sure that idea is what you want to present. And also be open to know that the moment you step on stage, you may be downloaded with a whole new set of information that in that moment, because you're open to it, you're being told to go with, even if you didn't prepare it.
Correct. The
preparation was more setting the stage.
Correct.
And so that's what it suddenly occurred to me this morning. It's like, you're ready for this. This wouldn't be handed to you if you weren't the one to deliver it. And at the same time, get out of your own way, because what you're delivering isn't you. It's ideas that can potentially help people to be in this place of innovation, right? Innovative mindset. And so it really was a separation of, I realized that the stress was about me, right? The ego gets stressed thinking, I won't show up.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. I don't have what it takes to deliver. And none of this. And my work has never been about that. So the moment I could step back and go, and all those other times that I delivered things that I think were pretty good, it was when I've never been about me. I've never been, that's why you don't see me on Facebook all the time. I don't need that praise. People are like, why don't you have your birthday on Facebook so we know when your birthday is? Because I don't care. The people who know me, like you, thank you very much for wishing me a happy birthday. The people who know me, who are in my life on a daily, are gonna know.
Yeah.
And everybody else, it's not that they don't count, they don't matter, but it just doesn't matter to me. I don't need the praise of hundreds of people knowing when my birthday was.
True.
Like, that's just me. I'm not saying it's wrong if you're like that, don't get me wrong, but I just am, it's not about me. It's about something bigger.
I laugh.
And so leaning into that was a really good thing for me to realize.
Great. You said that Carl goes, how can others see the value we have more than we can? So it's not I think it was a rhetorical thing and I replied, I'm so grateful for the flashlights they provide, because I think I will end on this one. When somebody comes and asks you for help or asks you for assistance or asks you for anything, they have so many people in their circle that they could go to ask. But they went and they said, let me see if Roy, can you do X, Y, and Z for me? It's such an honorable thing that they came to you, because they have so many people. They have so many people that they could go and inquire. But they thought and said, Roy, Traci, Carl, Wulwyn, I'm gonna come to you and ask you because I honor who you are, and I perceive that you have an answer for me, that, or if you don't have an answer for me, you will point me to the right direction.
Okay.
Now, as we're walking on earth and somebody stops us and say, hey, Wulwyn, can you, and then you look and say, I'm busy, I can't, take care, bye. And the person have thought it over and said, that's Wulwyn is the one I really want. And I am rushing and going, not saying my rush is not to something important, but we have the tendency to run and keep running to do what we want to do, rather than really pausing and saying, who can I help on this way as I'm going? And when this person hits me up, and it's not the quick one, it's the one that says, do you have time? Is there, I would like to ask you a question. Is that kind of person. It's not when I'm doing it and ask the question while I'm running and I go, I didn't hear you. It's the one who comes and respects and honors your time and say, can I get a few with you? You know, sure. And they ask you, and then you flippantly answer. Hi. You just lost a moment of truly letting a wisdom come out of your belly once again for somebody like you, where you said, they trust that I can do this. Haven't done it in a long time, but I know I can do it, but I'll do it. What this opens up for you, Traci, oh my goodness, there's another, there are so many others that coming down the line that when they see, oh, Traci does that. Traci Phillips, can you please come over and facilitate this one? There's a friend of ours, Liz Roselli. She opened a business. Liz opened a business. Liz is only looking at females entrepreneurs helping with. She's talking passionately about what she does with the female entrepreneurs. Her friend, who is an owner in a corporation, hears the passion and goes, Liz, can you help us? And she says, I only do female. She's like, no, you can do this. And now Liz is shining in that arena.
And I think that that's such a good point, because that's what I said to this person who came to me. She says, I immediately went to someone else who does what I do. Like, and then she's like, but your name popped into my head. Like, wait, you need to start with Traci. When she told me that, I'm like, that's divine intervention as far as I'm concerned, and I trust that. My ego has to get out of the way. She was good enough to be like, oh, but Traci doesn't do that. I'm just going to keep on and get in touch with this other person. She also allowed herself to pick up the message and deliver it. And I think at any point when we don't receive that message, we're stopping the flow of something that the divine wants to have happen. And, I said to her, I go, it's so funny you should say this to me, because it never occurred to me, but the two things that are required of me are right in my zone of practice and genius, right? So my zone of achievement was absolutely fully actualized in my teaching career. My zone of genius is as a coach, I believe.
Yeah.
Putting those two things together, I'll tell you what, I have had more fun preparing for this thing when I wasn't in stress mode. And I know that I'm going to have equal fun delivering it. And so where we're having fun, we're being of best value. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, if I'm having fun, I'm not doing work. And that's not important. And it's not the best thing. And it's not the most valuable thing because I'm having fun and I'm not having to work hard. That's actually not true. It doesn't mean we don't work hard and put effort into what we're naturally good at, but really our greatest value are those things that we also get to get the most value out of doing and being. So you know what I want to call this?
What do you want to call this?
It's not better to give than receive. You know why? Because there is this major thing where everybody, we've been hammered into us. It's better to give than receive. It's better than give to receive. And I am always upsetting the apple cart when I say that. I'm like, that's BS. It is not better to give than receive. It's equally important
Mm.
to give and receive. But I think
Yeah,
it's not better to give and receive will get people's attention.
correct. And it's twisting my brain. That's why you saw me going like this. Hey, Carl, Roy, the rest of the crew who were here, I'm going to call names. I'm taking names. Roy, Carl, Albert. I think that was it. And a couple other, Alan, most importantly, Tracy. I think
Boy.
what Carl said here, he said, removing fear opens doors,
Yeah.
so true, so true. Thank you so much. We're 2:03. We don't want to keep you any longer before next 2 weeks. You say they went over time. So we got to leave and respect your time. Y'all take care. Love you guys.
Thank you.
See you in 2
See you
weeks.
next
Really
2 weeks.
appreciate you. Bye-bye.